The moment his knee pressed into my back, I remember thinking something strange. Not, I'm in pain. Not even this can't be happening. I thought, there are cameras everywhere. And that realization is the only reason I'm telling this story instead of trying to forget it, because 11 minutes in an airport changed my life and ended 3 careers. I never once raised my voice. My name is Renee Marshall. I'm 54 years old. For 9 years, I've served on a federal appellate court. Before that, I spent more than 2 decades prosecuting organized crime, public corruption, and civil rights violations. I've stood in courtrooms with cartel leaders, sentenced officials who thought they were untouchable. Intimidation doesn't work on me. That morning, though, I wasn't wearing my robe. I was wearing a Navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase, heading to Washington for an emergency hearing. It was supposed to be routine. Board flight, land, argue a case, be home by evening. Instead, I learned how fragile routine can be. 7:42 a.m. pre-check security line. I had clearance. Verified traveler status. Federal identification. I stepped forward. A uniformed airport police officer moved directly into my path. Wide stance, and resting near his belt. "Ma'am, this line is for verified travelers." His tone wasn't curious. It was accusatory. I calmly handed him my credentials. He didn't scan them. Didn't examine them. He glanced, then handed them back. These look suspicious. Behind me, other travelers passed freely. No one else stopped. Just me. I've handled hostile cross-examinations. I've dismantled false testimony. But something about this felt predetermined, as if the conclusion had already been reached before I spoke. He gestured to the side. "Step out of line." I did. And then I asked a simple question. "May I have your badge number and your supervisor's name?" His expression changed. Backup was called. Non-compliant passenger. I hadn't raised my voice, hadn't refused anything. But now I was labeled, and labels escalate things. He told me to place my hands on the wall. I asked on what grounds. That was enough. His grip tightened around my arm. My briefcase dropped. Papers spilled across the tile. People started recording. I felt my shoulder twist sharply as he forced my arm behind my back. Pain shot upward. But what I remember most wasn't pain. It was his voice. Low, certain. "You people always think you're above the rules." There it was. The assumption. It's a story he'd already written about me. I said something then, not loudly, not angrily. "I am a federal judge." He laughed. The kind of laugh you give when you think someone is lying badly. And came the handcuffs, and the table, and the cold steel against my cheek. I kept saying the same thing. I'm not resisting, because I wasn't. A man stepped forward from the crowd. Older, controlled, direct officer. "She's compliant." "This is unnecessary." The officer warned him to step back. Instead, the man began calmly describing what he was seeing into his phone. He later introduced himself to me as a retired military attorney. He knew procedure. He knew excessive force. He knew this wasn't standard. And he made sure the record reflected that. Within minutes, a TSA supervisor arrived. Then the police chief, and something shifted. The chief looked at my identification on the floor. His posture changed instantly. The handcuffs came off. Damage control began. "Let's handle this internally." I looked up at the ceiling cameras, then back at him. No. Paramedics examined my shoulder, refused to leave immediately, because I understood something. If I walked away quietly, this would become paperwork. Now then paperwork would become memory, and memory would become nothing. I have prosecuted cover-ups. I recognize the language. Miscommunication. Procedural misunderstanding. Regrettable incident. So I waited, and I requested federal investigators. That was the moment the officer realized this wasn't going away. By noon, security footage had been preserved. 7 angles. Audio included. It showed me standing calmly. Credentials presented. No resistance. It also showed something else. Body camera footage recovered later revealed the officer spotting me in line and saying to his partner, "Watch this." 3 words. That destroyed his defense. What began as one incident became something larger. Complaints resurfaced. Patterns emerged. Other travelers came forward. Each story similar. Extra scrutiny. Unnecessary escalation. Dismissed complaints. internal reviews that went nowhere. Investigators later charged multiple individuals, including supervisory staff, with civil rights violations and obstruction-related offenses. Charges, not rumors. Court filings, evidence presented, and eventually convictions. The officer who restrained me was sentenced to federal prison. His supervisor received time as well. The chief resigned before facing his own proceedings. These outcomes came after trial, testimony, and jury verdict. That matters because accountability must be documented. I filed a civil lawsuit, not quietly, not for revenge, for reform. Early settlement offers came, large numbers. I declined. Money without change is insulation, not justice. Discovery uncovered years of ignored complaints. Statistical disparities that experts later testified could not reasonably be explained by coincidence alone. The case went to trial. 3 weeks. Experts, witnesses, video replayed repeatedly. The jury awarded significant damages. But more important than the number were the mandated reforms: independent oversight, external complaint review, bias training, lateral monitoring. Policies rewritten, leadership replaced. The department, as it previously operated, no longer exists. 3 months later, I returned to the bench, shoulder healed, scar faint but visible. My first case back involved allegations of police misconduct. Life has a sense of irony. I did not mention my own experience from the bench. I didn't need to. Justice is not personal, it is procedural. And procedure protects everyone. People often ask me what hurt the most. It wasn't the bruise, it wasn't even the humiliation. It was the certainty in his voice. The assumption, the idea that credentials, history, conduct, none of it mattered. Until the cameras did. Cameras don't get tired, they don't rewrite reports, they don't minimize, they record, and truth, when preserved, has weight. That morning, I complied with every instruction. What protected me wasn't compliance. It was documentation. Power without accountability expands. Power with cameras behaves differently. That's the lesson. Not anger, not revenge. Documentation, oversight, persistence. Justice is slow, but it moves. And sometimes it starts with asking for a badge number.